Yes, what up? We base boxing basement. Remember to like, because it costs nothing and it protects the channels from haters, including the algo. Right. So we're talking. There's not much boxing this weekend. There was a really lame show in Brighton, the home of the Peter Puffer, Brighton, yeah, with Harlem Eubanks and some other so-called famous names. Roman Fury. He's incredibly whack. Right? Scott Welch's son, Tommy Welch, although we didn't see it, some local bum, doorman, drug dealer. It was terrible. But anyway, right. There's this match. I do a bit of UFC now and then. I quite like it. I prefer boxing. Boxing to me is the number one. It's purer hand-to-hand combat. It has longer history. And I don't like the rolling around. I love the stand-up stuff in UFC, but the rolling around, I don't got no time. Sometimes you're sitting there and you're watching these two guys like sweating and humping each other, and one guy has his nose in the other guy's bate hole. I don't want to watch that thing, you know what I'm saying? But I love the stand-up, to be honest with you. So today we have, this weekend, in the early morning in the UK, Saturday night in the United States, Sergei Pavlovich vs. Tom Aspinall, right? And these two guys were brought in, in a few weeks after John Jones pulled out of fighting Stipe Miocic. I think Jones was scared of Miocic, which is crazy considering he's 42, chinny, and, he's been waxed. But, I don't know, man. I don't know, maybe it's a real injury, but I tell you what, Johnny Jones, Bones Jones, especially without his PEDs and his eye pokes, would not want to fight any of these two generals, Pavlovich or Aspinall, right? And, it's relevant to boxing this in many ways. I'm not, you get these guys that are pro-UFC and hate boxing, or pro-boxing and hate UFC. I mean, I think that's lame, that argument. They both have their place, right? And I enjoy both. For me, boxing is number one for historical reasons, and it's just easier to understand. Anyone knows what a punch in the head looks like. You can sit a woman who's never watched any sport in her life in front of a boxing match, she'll kind of know who's winning. Whereas, you put them in front of an MMA match or like some sport like football, you wouldn't know the rules. American football, you just wouldn't know what you were watching. Yeah. Maybe even lawn bowls, although lawn bowls is quite easy to explain as well, Anyway, we're not talking about Tony Alcock, the legend, tonight. We're talking about some boxing. And I mean, the question is, firstly, would Pavlovich and Aspinall do well in pro heavyweight boxing? And I think it is either to cross in with the heavyweights, because if you can punch and take a punch, then you're 80% there in heavyweight boxing. You don't need as many skills as the lower weights, right? You need to be able to take a shot and give one out, basically. So, and I will come to that in a minute, but, you think, right, in 2023 in boxing, right, we didn't have the unification fight we were promised between Usyk and Fury. Yeah, and I was like, I don't even think Tyson wants to box any serious fights anymore. I think he's scared of Usyk. He's scared of losing, though, right? He looked fat, disgusting, lardy, untrained. He looks very old. He's 35, blood clot. When I was 35, man, I could pull all kinds of young women's, and I didn't look old. This guy looks 55. Fury's family aged very badly. There's a Roman Fury, he's 24, looks 45 as well. Hughie Fury, he's 29 and looks 65. You know what I'm saying? Very bad genes, that family. At least in the aging department. Tyson can fight. Hughie can sort of fight. Roman can't. Tommy can't. Young Fury can't. But anyway. So we haven't had the Usyk Fury unification, and that's bad for boxing. And Tyson Fury did defend his title once this year, and he's not going to. And previous to that, he defended against a complete bum and pal, Chitzora, who had like 15 losses, right? And that was a year ago. And he's not going to fight again this year. He's just going to fight Ngannou, who having his first pro boxing match. Yeah, he did well, but Fury disgraced himself. and disgrace boxing, dare I say it. Although boxing's a disgrace, the crack hole of sports anyway. Yeah. And Usyk, so what was he reduced to? He had to fight as mandatory or whatever. Daniel Dubum, the Buck. Yeah. A transformer-loving bum of a buck. Yeah. Who takes a knee if you shout at him. You know, he loves taking his knees, Dubuck. He took 3 knees off one punch from Kevin Lorena, a cruiserweight. You know, it's nuts, man. Nuts. Anyway, you know, so the UFC, the UFC shows how to be done, right? It pulls out Pavlovich vs Aspinall, the 2 top heavyweights, in my opinion, after John Jones, at a few weeks' notice for the interim title. Now, there's a few things you got to remember, right? The UFC is very different to pro boxing, right? In the sense that, the UFC is worth both the world governing organization and the promoter. I've said this many times. And although not officially the manager of the fighters, basically the manager and matchmaker, it's like, you take these fights. No, we don't want to. Okay, well, maybe we'll give you your papers and goodbye. And everyone, MMA, there's not much money. It's already in the UFC. And even the UFC don't pay that well. But, UFC have got such control over MMA, right? Because everyone knows there's UFC and the other ones don't count. No one cares about PFL, one fighting, Cage Warriors, Bellator. Who cares? Oh, I was Bellator champion. Okay, did you fight in the UFC? Yeah, I did. Is that right? Funky Ben Askren. How did you do in the UFC? Well, I got waxed in 3 seconds by Jorge Masvidal. Yeah, everyone cares about the UFC champion. No one cares about anything else. But like I said, they have got a monopoly. And it wouldn't be allowed in boxing because the Muhammad Ali Act said you could not be a promoter and manager of a fight. They've got loads of restrictions. So you could never have a world organizational body like the WBC being a promoter as well as an organizational body, right? So it's a lot easier in UFC. There's less complications with, also with TV as well. All these fighters are signed to different promotions, different TV channels. It's a lot harder. But, come on, man. Well, it shows that at least we can get something done in UFC. And the main problem with boxing is they just don't have enough fights. They don't fight enough every year. And then you can fit in more of these fights, They might just Usyk. He has one defense and he's aged 36 against Dubuck, a guy who loves to quit. Yeah, and goes out with transformers. He's going to get on his knee for that one as well, believe. Yeah, and then Tyson fights Ngannou, a guy who's never had a pro fight. I mean, come on, man. Yeah. And you think, how would these two do as heavies, as pro heavies? And also, how are they going to do against each other today, this weekend? Now, I was just looking into the build-up, and unfortunately, Tom Aspinall, it's so cringe, man. Yeah. He would have been really funny. He ruled out a dick measuring contest with Sergei Pavlovich during a hilarious UFC 295 press conference. That's an actual quote from TalkSport. I mean, that's pathetic. He started talking about Corey's as well. He's been told to, like Tyson. That's elitist stuff. That's, to me, says you sell out. Why would you want to talk openly? I think he's got kids as well about Corey's in a press conference about fighting art. You don't do that, man. You don't do that. But anyway, both Aspinall and Pavlovich look in great shape. Aspinall has these weird marks in his body. Like, he had these weird, I don't know, man. They look like a zipper tit scars, right? But they're both looking in great shape. I don't expect anything less than that, right? Now, what's real interesting about the fight is you look at the records. Aspinall has 13 wins, 3 losses, with all wins inside a distance, right? 10 KOs and 3 submissions, I think. But the losses, right? One was a freak injury when his leg just gave way, right? So you can't really count that. And the other was a disqualification loss. So he's only really got one serious loss, which was a submission by a heel hook, right? And this is interesting. 12 of his 13 wins are in the first round, okay? So he lacks to finish it quickly. Sergei Pavlovich, he's got 18 wins and 1 loss. His only loss, I think, was his first UFC fight when he was grounded and pounded by the PED monster, the PED Goliath, Behemoth, Overeem, who just grounded and pounded him. But apart from that, he's got 18 wins. 15 wins inside the distance. Yeah? 15 wins in the first round. None by submission, right? None of his wins inside the distance are by submission. They're all by TKO or KO. So together, right, with them two, out of 31 wins for both of them, 27 wins have come in the first round, man. I mean, that's just nuts, right? That's just right, you know? And even two of their losses came in the first round too. Overeem lost and the Curtis Blades loss against Aspinall was a freak one. But anyway, so you say, well, there's a likely will end in the first round. Well, it's really as simple as that. I mean, the odds reflect that, obviously. Yeah? And I feel these two will go at it. Will go at it. Yeah. To me, Pavlovich punches harder, but Aspinall is faster. Aspinall also has the better ground game. I think he's been training jiu-jitsu by his dad since he was a youth. So you'd think his game, his ground game is going to be better. I mean, we don't really know much about Pavlovich's ground game. We haven't seen any of it. He just batters you with his big fists. Yeah? Aspinall has got a huge head. We don't know who's got the better chin, right? Who knows? Like I said, we're not sure yet. But Aspinall has a huge head, which implies you can take a punch, as I say. But I don't know, man. Pavlovich looks like he can take a shot. He wasn't hurt when he was grounded and pounded. He couldn't do anything. He was sat on his chest over him, just battered his head, and he was in no position to defend himself, right? So it's a very even fight. Yeah. Now, I would suggest if Aspinall uses his brain, yeah, he would go for the ground game. It may not be that easy to take down someone as strong and as aggressive as Pavlovich, right? But you'd expect him to have the advantage there, as his jiu-jitsu is a lot better, and he has a lot more experience there. Yeah, yeah, and you know, but Aspinall's got good boxing too. He's light on his feet. He's got good combinations. I've seen him on the pads. He looks like a pro boxer, right? And he's actually had a pro boxing fight. He won in a round against a real journeyman type, but you know, a journeyman type that he beat him in the first round, obviously, yeah. And this guy had 12 wins in 33 fights. But, you know, Aspinall did the job quicker than Craig Richards, Matty Askin, Ilunga Makabu, Ryan Mahi, who are all, you know, world-class or British-class fighters, right? But, you know, those were at cruiserweight, right? Whereas Aspinall's a genuine heavyweight. I watched the fight. It didn't look that great, to be honest. He looked a bit novice Aspinall, but he stopped him in a round. Yeah, but that's 6 years ago, and there's no doubt that Aspinall's punching would have been getting better. He's been looking good on the pads. His footwork looks good. I don't think he's as big a puncher as Pavlovich, though, right? And you know, like, when you're like, who's going to win a fight? I mean, this one seems dead even. Who do you think would win a fight? If you really want to decide who you personally think will win a fight, you ask yourself, if I had to bet my life on it, who would I back? Yeah, if you really want to be honest. So you don't get swayed by... You know, I've always liked Pavlovich because that's the kind of fighter I like. Going forward, banging, right? But then Aspinall I like as well, right? So I got no bias really towards either one. And I don't support fighters just because they're British, you know, or so-called British. But, you know, I like both of them. It's like Joe Joyce, he's the Big Bang Zhang, two guys I really like. I think I edge towards Pavlovich. If you had to say who would you rather win, part of me thinks Pavlovich, which seems a bit treacherous to Aspinall, but whatever. I just like Pav, right? And I don't know, man. I just don't know. This is as even as it gets, yeah. Now, firstly, I went for for Pavlovich when the first fight was announced. I said I edged towards him, but I watched a few fights. I'm like, did I get it wrong? Aspinall was looking fast. And he's good on his feet, and his jiu-jitsu will be better. Like, well, you know, if it goes to the ground. But I'm sticking with Pavlovich. Why? Because my first intuition was to go for Pavlovich, and the first intuition is often really important. You know, there've been times when I've been swayed a bit near the fight by what other people have said or by the weigh-in or something, and usually my first intuition is correct. So I'm going for Pavlovich. How? I mean, I don't know. It just, I think he's stronger and punches harder, and so the pick would be for him to overwhelm Aspinall with violent punches. But like I said, like Aspinall, right? If he takes down Pav, which is, like when you got a guy who's rushing for you, throwing big shots, if you're good and take him to the ground, then there's a big policy. There's good possibility of win, and I don't know if it's the right decision, but I'm going to go Pavlovich because I picked him first, right? So I'm going for that. I'm probably stay up for this, which I rarely stay up for any fight, boxing or MMA. But this, and it's got Jiri vs Pereira as well on the undercard. Now those are two super fights, man. I mean, I wish we could. We got to make these quality fights in boxing. I know it's a lot harder, but we got to make them to hold on to our funds. Because the young fans probably more UFC, right? Although many like both. I know loads of youngsters who like both, and that's cool. That's cool. But now, so I said before, who would make would they either make a good boxer, Aspinall or Pavlovich? And if so, who would do the best? And this question has become more important and serious since Ngannou proved that you can cross over straight into boxing. I mean, it hadn't really been done before, but no one had tried seriously. I mean, guys like Kimbo Slice weren't that serious, and he started off as a street fighter anyway, not an MMA guy, right? I think Pavlovich is a clubbing puncher, whereas Ngannou is more explosive, and I don't know. I lean towards that explosivity. Aspinall's faster than Ngannou. Has much better footwork, but he doesn't punch as hard as either of them. So it's a weird one. Like I said, Aspinall did have a fight, one pro fight, which he won in the first round, but the guy has no great shakes, but still. Like, it was on YouTube, but it seems to have been taken down. I don't know why. But yeah, I mean, Ngannou has become the yardstick for MMA fighters transitioning into boxing, especially heavyweight boxing. Because as I said, there's a big difference between heavyweight and all the other weights. Yeah, because heavyweight, if you got a good chin, you're violent and you can punch. You're 80% there, bro. Yeah, and there's less good heavyweights, right? So, I mean, I just think both Aspinall and Pav could do well. Yeah, I maybe edge towards Ngannou doing better because he showed some decent boxing skills for a guy who hadn't boxed before, and a guy looked rubbish on the pads, but he's got some explosive power, right? As I said, Pav's more of a clubber, and Tom's not a bigger puncher, but he's got better movement and style, man. Yeah, I think both would have done well. Pavlovich with his strength and power. Relentlessness. He reminds me of Galotta. He looks a bit like Galotta. I think he'd be like a Galotta type fighter. Maybe punching a bit harder. Aspinall would have some nice movement. Yeah. I think all three of these guys would have a chance of being top guys, top boxers, if they'd stayed in the sport of boxing, like Mayweather says, in a sport of boxing. But now, it's possible. It's possible. Give Aspinall, Pavlovich a year of pure boxing training, and yeah, I think they'd be dangerous at world level. And there's just not a lot at world level, right? And we need to see what you expect them all to have good chins. Ngannou, although he did get wobbled by Miocic, but that was with 4-ounce gloves. But he's got that explosive power. Pavlovich and Aspinall with a huge head both look like they can take a shot, and it's important in boxing because you take most punches are headshots. So yeah, I mean, let's enjoy the fight. Pavlovich Aspinall. That's a real buzz fight, great fight, right? And we'll see what happens with the boxing. We'll see what happens. There's a lot more money in boxing, so I guess either of them would be interested in crossing over. Maybe Ngannou's shown the way. But we've got to see if Ngannou carries on. What I mean by that, he should stick to boxing. I mean, if he let's see who else he fights now. And whether that's a one-off, and whether Tyson Fury was just so poor and he just over-exceeded people's expectations. It could have been that. But yeah, let's enjoy the fights. Yeah, just briefly an afterthought though, right? For conspiracy theorists, right? Which means people that try and look beyond the surface, right? It's very interesting seeing, right, Tom Aspinall now suddenly being all coiffed, dressed up, in a flashy shirt and a nice shirt. Like, it reminds me of when Tyson started wearing Versace, right? So not only that, right, but Aspinall started talking about Corey's in the press conference. Oh, I hope it doesn't become a Corey measuring contest because his Corey is probably bigger than mine. He didn't use the word Corey. He used the word dear, but, it makes me think, hang on. The elitists grabbed him now. They're going to make him their new champion, their new Tyson Fury, the new flashy dresser, their new Corey inspector. So there's a bit of me that thinks, do the elitists want Aspinall to win? As well, of course, Russia bad, okay? In the news at the moment. So, will that be a factor? I wonder.